Well folks, it's the last day already. Special Projects always flies by, and this of course is the last couple of builds today for pack number 18. This one is a deep cut throwback for Forza fans, much like the Do Luck Supra, which I did not so long ago in this series. This one a bit more understated in terms of spec and looks, the Do Luck NSX, of course built on the 1992 shape here in the game NSX Type R. Funny thing is, this is one of the relatively rare occasions where you're actually detuning a car to make it match the vehicle which we're replicating. It still ends up quicker though, because of the other stuff which we've done. In fact, it's almost like a tribute not only to the Do Luck, but also to a series I used to do in Gran Turismo 6 called Sleeper Spec, where the whole point was to build a car where you couldn't tell it was tuned, but it would be a lot quicker around the track. So no power increase, no weight loss, just relying on, gearing, diff, suspension. It was a pretty fun series, and you could get a lot quicker out of pretty much every car, even with minimal visual change and no spec sheet change. So this is kind of like that vibe. Now, in terms of the livery, please give this player some love, because if I recall correctly, they are the only person in the entire Gran Turismo 7 community who has done this livery for the car. So that is kind of wild. So be sure to give them some love. I don't think it had a huge amount of support either, which I guess makes sense when they're the only person who's done it. The fact that it looks good really was the icing on the cake, of course. Now, as far as the build itself, there are a couple of things which I've purchased but you don't need, so I was doing a bit of mix and match to see which things worked on the car. You'll see in a second. Here for the Ultimate section, there's nothing to worry about though. For the Sports section, the exhaust is one of them. You'll notice I've bought a couple of different exhausts. Don't bother buying any. The reason why I did that is to try and see if we could get more visually accurate to Forza, which has kind of those weird downturned pipes, which personally I don't like, but none of them really look right, so don't bother with any of those. For the rest here, we've got the Sports Hards already fitted, so I've just gone with that. As far as the Club Sports section, the Sports Clutch and Flywheel, the Sports Brake Discs. The Power Restrictor is purchased, but you don't actually need it. As far as the semi-racing stuff, again, forget the exhaust. The ECU is a bit of a weird one, because you don't have to do that, because what we've done is actually reduce the power to the more iconic JDM spec 276. Again, we're using Forza 2 as a reference, of course, but you could not fit the ECU and just use the power restrictor. The reason why I haven't done that is because, at least for me, and I'd be interested to know if some of you folks find this as well, I find the power restrictor plate to be a bit of a blunt force approach, because it kind of affects your power and torque curve as well, whereas with the ECU it feels like a bit more of an organic and kind of better flow way of reducing the power while not stunting the performance of the car. Maybe that's just me, could be psychosomatic, but that's what I personally feel anyway. So as far as the diff, of course, that's fully customised. The gearbox being changed at all is arguable in terms of bothering to do that. I thought, let's have a bit of fun at least within the specs, so I fitted the manual one. And then as far as the suspension, we've got height adjustable sports there. For the racing stuff, I actually do have the pads. If I recall, I think the reason why I did that is because I was going to go for sports pads, but they made no difference to the car. I think it might already kind of have sports pads, so I went for the racing ones instead. The fully customised suspension is purchased, but of course just now I pointed out it had the height adjustable. I don't recall why I had racing suspension, but I didn't fit that for this one. I think I might have just fitted that ages and ages ago, because this was a completely standard car before I built it into this one, so I think that might have been where I started doing something and then just never bothered with it. So that's it for the racing stuff, and for the extreme section, I thought, why not go for the steering angle adapter? Again, work with what we've got, give it a bit of a better turn in as well, and see what we can do. In terms of the point level, 532 is fairly modest. It's probably a bit higher, actually, than you'd expect for a car with less power than it started with, and 1230 kilos is good, but it's not insanely good. As I said, that is matching the spec in Forza 2. Then, as far as the actual build, of course, we've got the Sports Hards fitted. For the suspension, 105mm. One is the fixed version of anti-roll on this one. 25 and 45 for the dampers, as I squelch a burp. 2.5 degrees on the frequency for the springs, or I guess 2.5 in general. 1 degree of camber, and of course the toe is already set. As far as the diff, pretty normal approach, 10, 20, 30, nothing special there. As far as the auto setting on the transmission, I've gone for 280 kilometers an hour. I personally think that's about right for this car. It feels like the gears aren't overly long or overly short, so give it a try, and of course you can adjust it if you feel it needs it. As far as the restrictor and all that, thankfully, 92% gives you exactly the right amount of horsepower. As far as the downforce, I've opted to leave it about halfway. So again, that's another point where you could potentially get the point level a bit lower if you wanted to, especially if you lower the front end or have even more grip through corners. So again, that's up to you. And over here you can see the stuff which we have, or mostly in this case, haven't fitted for this particular build. So for those who are unfamiliar with the car, it could seem a fairly underwhelming bunch of things to do to it. So the real question, of course, is to jump out to the track now and see what the car can actually do in practice. This one is kind of a weird build because what could initially seem to be a relatively underwhelming set of things to do to an otherwise already good enough car in reference to a vehicle which most Gran Turismo players don't really know about or even care about somehow comes together to being a simply lovely car to drive. This really does prove that sometimes a car is already so good that all it needs is a few little touches, and I might go so far as to say this could be my favourite car out of this particular pack. Not because it's the quickest or because it's the best at any particular thing, but something about how little we've done, but how lovely the results are, really is satisfying from a tuner's point of view. And of course there are so many builds where I go super deep on every little thing to try and get the car handling and performing exactly as I want it. Then you have something like an NSX Type R where so much of the work is already done for you by Honda, and then you're just slightly pushing that already great car into just another level of, well, as I said, loveliness to drive. So like I said, if you are a Forza fan, this will be a nice throwback, a walk down memory lane like the Do Luck Supra was, and the Forza 1 Subaru, which we did as well, and a bunch of others. I hope you enjoy it, of course. Maybe if, like me, you had an NSX lying around and you fancy trying something different, a super deep cut reference to Forza, much like many of the old, Mines and Sylvia drift cars and all the other things we do from Gran Turismo's past, then of course I hope you enjoy it. There is only, though, as I said, one more build. It's a Signature Series build, which it's been a while since I last did one of those, so check that out later on today. And for now, thanks for watching.